Imagine if there was one rule, one principle so powerful that following it could unlock almost any change you wanted to make in your life. Whether it's getting fit, learning a new skill, or even overcoming procrastination, this rule acts like a magnet for successful habits. It's called the cardinal rule of behavior change, and it's deceptively simple. Make it satisfying. Think about it. Why do most diets fail? Why do gym memberships go unused? And why do habits we really want to form so often fade out? The answer is built into our biology. Our brains are wired to repeat actions that feel good and avoid those that don't. The big problem with traditional habit change is that most of the time, the rewards are delayed. Want to lose weight? The results take weeks, if not months. Trying to save money? Well, that new pair of shoes feels great right now, while the satisfaction of a fatter bank account takes time to build. So how do we leverage our biology to our advantage and turn hard habits into enjoyable ones? Let's dive in. First, let's understand why immediate rewards are so powerful. Imagine you're training a dog to sit. If you give a treat right after it sits, the dog learns quickly. If you wait too long to give the treat, the dog has no idea what it did right. Our brains work in a similar way. When there's an immediate positive response, our brains learn to repeat the behavior. This is why making habits satisfying in the moment is critical. The trick is to add a layer of immediate satisfaction to actions that might otherwise feel like chores. Now, you might be wondering, how do I make something like studying or exercising instantly satisfying? Here's where the power of pairing comes in. Take something you already enjoy, say listening to music or a podcast, and pair it with the habit you're trying to build. Imagine you only get to listen to that favorite playlist while you're at the gym. Suddenly, the gym isn't just a place to sweat. It's a place to enjoy your music. Your brain now associates exercise with enjoyment, not just effort. Or let's say you want to read more. Instead of tackling a massive novel all at once, start with short, satisfying chapters. Or give yourself a treat after each reading session. The key here is to make the immediate experience enjoyable enough that your brain says, hey, this is actually pretty nice. Let's do it again. Here's another hack that works incredibly well. Track your progress visually. Humans have a surprising urge to complete things once they start, especially when they can see it. You can use a simple calendar or habit tracking app. Every time you complete your desired behavior, whether it's practicing guitar, drinking more water, or studying for a set amount of time, mark it down. This creates a visual chain of your progress. Once you see that chain growing, there's a satisfaction in not wanting to break it. It's a tiny but powerful reward that builds momentum over time. Next, let's talk about one of the most underestimated aspects of habit building, making it visible. A big reason habits fail is because they're easy to ignore. For example, if your goal is to stay hydrated but your water bottle is out of sight, you're less likely to remember it. By placing cues in obvious places, like a water bottle on your desk or a book by your bedside table, you're creating a reminder that's hard to ignore. This visual cue makes it more likely that you'll take the desired action, simply because it's in your line of sight. Now, if you're looking to break a habit instead of build one, this same principle applies, but flipped. You need to make the habit unsatisfying. Think about a behavior you want to cut down on, like scrolling social media. One way to do this is to add a small penalty whenever you catch yourself slipping. Maybe you set a rule that every time you break your screen time limit, you owe $1 to a friend or have to do a few minutes of exercise. By making the habit less enjoyable, your brain starts associating it with a minor inconvenience rather than a reward. What's fascinating is that our brains are not morally invested in good or bad habits. They're just looking for the path of least resistance to satisfaction. By controlling the rewards and penalties around your actions, you're reshaping what your brain craves. Another tactic that's surprisingly powerful is called temptation bundling. This involves pairing something you want to do with something you need to do. Imagine you want to watch a new episode of your favorite show, but also need to study. Set up a system where you only get to watch the show after completing a certain amount of study time. You're essentially bundling your desire for entertainment with the responsibility of studying, creating a win-win scenario. Your brain gets the satisfaction of watching something enjoyable, but learns that it's tied to completing a productive task. And let's not underestimate the power of small wins. When trying to start a new habit, start tiny, really tiny. Instead of committing to a 30-minute run, begin with a 5-minute walk. Instead of aiming to read for an hour, start with 5 minutes. By making the initial action so small, you remove the friction. Completing the task, even if it's small, gives your brain a shot of satisfaction. It feels like a win, and that feeling fuels motivation to keep going. Finally, keep in mind that this approach isn't about perfect adherence. There will be days you miss the mark, and that's okay. The focus should be on creating a structure that makes it more satisfying to stick to your goals most of the time. Each little reward you give yourself, each tiny barrier you put in place for undesirable habits, compounds over time, making it easier and easier to stay consistent. So, to wrap it up, the secret to lasting change isn't in forcing yourself to endure actions you dislike. It's about reshaping the environment around you so that the habits you want to keep become satisfying, rewarding, and visible, and those you want to avoid become inconvenient and unsatisfying. Make the rewards immediate, start small, keep a visible reminder, and track your wins. And the beauty of it? Once these behaviors start feeling naturally rewarding, they become second nature. Stick with it, and you'll find that change isn't something you chase, it's something you attract.